From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Morning Line with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. I am Nick Barris. It is a Tuesday, and this week is a week where, yes, you can start addressing the issue of taxes. I think that's right. Starting as of Monday, you could start, if you had your, W-2s and all that, start filing for early returns. Many of you who have money coming to you can do so. So tax time, it's coming up, and of course we're counting down to April 15th, or is that going to be
18th.
the 15th? It's going to be the 18th this time around. So we're going to do a tax show right now since we're just kicking it off, and I'll tell you right now, we'll probably do another one before it's all said and done. This morning, we're coming to you on the Plus here. You see the number on the screen, 737-7587. But we're also streaming live on Facebook at newschannel5.com. So if you're following us on Facebook at newschannel5.com and have a tax question, go ahead and post there on that site, and then I'll share that with our guest, who really is here to answer all the questions that you may have. With us is our tax expert, financial consultant expert, all the way around. She just knows money. Dr. Friday Burke, good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's nice to see you.
You too.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's, Merry Christmas, and all the other holidays we may have missed.
All of that. It's been a while since we've seen you here, and it's good to have you in-house. We were doing a lot of Zooms last year, but you're here with us today.
Yes.
So and we're going to open up the phone lines and get it going. But, boy, we were talking before the show just about how I had put so much of this behind me from last year, and some of it was confusing, as it may have been for you, the stimulus checks and what you claim and what you don't. We'll get into some of the real basic details, and we'll look at some of the questions and comments. But first, you were saying right off the bat, people need to understand what they do with regard to that last stimulus check and letters the IRS is sending out.
Right. So in 2021, we had two situations. One, we got our third stimulus. That was around March. And the IRS is sending out a letter. It's a 6475. It's going to say right on it, third stimulus, and it should say $1,400 or whatever you received, depending on the number of people in your household. But it was $1,400 for each person. So whatever was on there, you need to be able to give to your tax, or if you're preparing your own taxes, it is a question on there. The second one, which is a newbie, guys, is where they gave the advanced child tax credit. This is kind of huge, because if you have grandchildren or children or your own children that live in the house, and you may have been getting on the 15th of every month a percentage of your tax credit for the last 6 months. Maybe you didn't get it all 6 months. Maybe you never got it at all. Or maybe you have a situation where it's in every other year and the IRS was paying you, but you don't get to claim the children this year. Well, there's a letter also coming out. It's a 6419. And it's going to have your name, social security number, and how much they paid you. If you do not have any children this year on your tax return, remember that is going to be income to you, because that's the way the IRS is looking. This is not like the stimulus. Oops, we made a mistake. We gave you money, whatever. This is a child tax credit, and it will become. And there's a whole part in your new tax return that's going to be asking you questions if you were qualified, if the children, if you're, if you live in the country for more than 6 months, all the important questions that's going to come along with it. So those two letters, 6419 advanced child tax credit, 6475 your stimulus money. Both of those need to be added to your checkoff list of documents when you get ready to go see your tax person or prepare your own taxes.
And those letters, do you think, if you haven't received it yet, it should be coming anytime? Right.
They said they sent them out at the end of December, is what they were told. So I haven't actually had anyone say they've received it yet. So it'd be interesting if someone called in and just said they did receive them. Might give us an idea if they actually have mailed yet, or if they're still in the outbox going out.
Gotcha. Good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Is there anything else that jumps out at you before we get into the real basics that's our year to year we need to be aware of this year coming out of last year? I know everything is a little bit different because of pandemic and everything else.
The IRS did put a big newsletter out basically saying if you haven't resolved your 2020, because again, in 2020, many people had two stimulus and they couldn't get it through. They didn't get the money. They're still having the discussion with the IRS. I know I've got about 5 or 6 clients that we're still working. They specifically said you can go ahead and still file for 2021. In fact, they sent us instructions. So if you are an e-filer and if you don't have 2020 in the system, you normally can't e-file. because you have to know what your adjusted gross income from the year before to e-file. They specifically said put 0 in as your adjusted gross and go ahead and e-file, and it will be accepted. So you can skip your 2020 in essence and put in your 2021. Just when it asks you what your adjusted gross is, put 0, and you'll be able to file that return and then still resolve your 2020 instead of waiting on 2021 because 2020 isn't resolved.
Okay, it can be confusing.
I know.
Yeah, it really can be
can.
confusing. But I think if you're in that situation, you understand what she's saying. Other things that come into play, I mean, so many people, as you know, for a period of time were on long-term unemployment.
Yes.
Things like this. In terms of, what's taxable and what's not, how that plays out, or just a reminder for folks on how that works.
Well, and that was a funny one, Nick, only because that didn't pass until they passed the law in March, right? So we had already filed, or February, when they came in with the American Opportunity, they changed and said, wait, the first $10,200 of Social Security will not be taxed in the year of 2020. Well, we'd already filed tax returns for those people, so the IRS had to correct that, which apparently we still are having some issues with. But that being said, so this year, if you are on 2021, if you received unemployment, 100% of it is taxable. Let's clarify that. It isn't a portion tax-free in tax. They have it back to the standard tax code. So it was only in 2020 that we had that situation. So again, what you may have done in 2020 may be completely different in 2021. So just pay attention. Don't rush to getting your taxes done, because another big thing that the IRS sent out was a large number. I mean, we're talking about almost 1 million mistakes were made because people didn't file all their W-2s and 1099s. So that holds up your refund, holds up your tax return. You get one of those love letters that says, we've changed your return because. So really important. Take a breath, make sure you have all of your tax documents before you do your taxes. Just because you want that refund, I get it. But if it's wrong, you're going to pay penalties on top of it.
Comes back and gets you. I just want to say right now, too, as we open the show, we had a little hiccup. We're obviously live here on the Plus, but we're also streaming live. I'm following it right now on Facebook at newschannel5.com. So those of you who are watching there, we're talking taxes with Dr. Friday. If you have questions or comments about taxes and what you need to file, because there has been some confusion coming out of the past couple of years and how it shakes out.
Yes.
Go ahead and message, and I'll ask her those questions if you have some. A lot of people do, right? Now is the time. I guess Monday was the day you could start sending it in. Is this when the folks who know they're having returns that are gung-ho about it get going? And if you do file your return right now, how quickly should you get it?
Well, they're saying they're going to be back to the 21 days.
Okay, great.
So the IRS assuming, but they're already saying if you have child credit or if you have a question on the stimulus, that is already going to be delayed. In fact, they're already saying that's going to be another 30 days on top of it, because on the advanced child credit situation, they have to match all those payments. And then they also have to make sure that child was allowed to be claimed by you. They've got some new rules that came a few years ago, so they're delaying. So many people that file get the earned income credit along with the child credit. That's why they have such large refunds that happen. Those are usually the people that rush and get their taxes done really early. Just be prepared. If you are one of those, that it may take at least 30 to 40 days to get your refunds. It's going to be delayed.
Okay, and if you have questions, for a while there, we know people were trying to call the IRS. And I was like calling just a wall, and it looked at you, and you never heard anything back. I mean, obviously, if we have someone like you, and that's why we have her on this morning. Don't bother calling the IRS. Call and let's talk to Dr. Friday. If you have questions like that, I mean, do you think they've improved it? We just know they were overwrought, in fairness to the IRS, with everything that happened. Is communication, as far as you've heard, gotten better?
It hasn't.
Oh, great.
Again, I give the IRS a lot more.
Because you need to get answers sometimes, too.
And we give them a lot more credit. I mean, keep in mind, they were never set up to do stimulus checks. They were never set up to do advanced child tax credits. And then it's not so much the issuing, but now you've got to come back and make sure that somebody isn't asking for twice as much, because everything has to match up. The system was never that great in the first place. Now you're asking them to do a lot more work, and so it's just delaying and delaying. And then, of course, COVID shut them down in 2020. So they're still behind. I don't know. I heard some number of like 50 million tax returns or something in that number that they didn't finish in 2020. Now you're starting ours. I mean, we do 1 billion returns a year. So, I'm just saying the IRS is now, and they haven't had the hiring that they were wanting. I will tell people the best place to start is irs.gov, because they have a big Q&A. They've tried to take all these phone calls and put questions and answers in there, so you might be able to find your solution versus trying to get on the phone. Because, you know, I always tell people, be patient, and remember that person on the other end of the phone is really just an employee trying to do their job. They're not like the big bad IRS themselves. You know, we get frustrated.
It is, actually, as you get on there, it's a pretty handy site.
It is. It's I like it.
The Q&A, and it can guide you places. Just getting to someone to specifically answer your question can be tough.
It's frustrating.
Well, did the standard exemption change at all, or how does that work these days?
It went up another 400, so we've got to,
you know. How does that work for a single or family?
So married person, now you're going to ask them.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was going to cheat. I don't know the exact numbers. I know I think it's $12,800 for single, and I think it's twice that for married. And then if you're over the age of 65, you get an additional $1,500 for single and $1,350 if you are married.
Okay.
So unfortunately, guys, Friday didn't cheat fast enough. I didn't have it wrote down.
That's all right. No, that gives us an idea. I was just wondering if that.
But every year it does. It does have an uptick every year, so that does help us a lot.
As far as Social Security, Martha on Facebook, you know, we got our Social Security earning statements.
Yes.
Okay, and so what would just put that into context?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And talk about taxable money with earnings and Social Security.
So the great news is, well, if you're living solely off Social Security, that is all you have, or Social Security disability, then you don't need to file taxes. The only reason you're going to file taxes this year versus some of the other years would be you did not receive your stimulus. If you didn't receive it, you still, even though you'll have no taxable income, you will need to claim. Or you're raising grandchildren or children in your house that are under the age of 18, then the child tax credit, you would be able, it's refundable. So you'd want to file to get the full year, because they only gave us half of it in the year, to get the full year. But if you are just receiving Social Security statements and you have nothing else, now keep in mind, if you do have earnings and you have Social Security,
because you can, if you, let's say you take Social Security early, and you still have a job, and you're making, you know,
less than $19,000, I hope, because if you take it early, they can take $2. I mean, for every $2 you earn above that $19,000, they're going to take $1 back of your Social Security.
So if you're making under $19,000, you can still, to supplement what your Social Security is, does that get taxed?
Well, you'll have to claim the 19 plus the Social Security, and it could be, a portion of it could be taxed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it won't be all of it, but some of it could be.
I know a lot of people do that. What's interesting is we go to the break is coming out of the pandemic and the like, plenty of people, for whatever reason, depending on what they can afford and not, are taking retirement early. I know if you wait longer, and there can be a debate there, you get more money if you wait longer, but you know, who knows? You know, in this day and age, I might just take it right now.
Yeah,
you know?
2020 was a good time to probably do that, because a lot of people couldn't get jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, and they needed it. But you can exit out and go back to work and not have to stay on it and get penalized.
Oh, you could do that.
So it's something that I've had several clients do.
Like if someone took it early and then all of a sudden their dream job came along for a lot more money, they can say, you know what, I'm going to go back to the workplace, and I'm going to stop taking my Social Security and then build it up. That's interesting. All right, we'll take a break. We've got more comments and questions coming in on Facebook. We're streaming live at newschannel5.com. We can take calls here, 737-7587 on the plus. Dr. Friday here. It can be confusing with what we've been through the last couple of years. This is our tax show, and she knows her stuff. So if you have a question about something specific with your taxes, as we're just getting started filing, call us or message us, and we'll get to it right after this. Stay with us.